guys, I hope you're all doing really well. Welcome to this little voiceover to Timelapse. I can't remember the last time I did one of these. I think it was like 4 years ago, maybe. A long time. Anyway, I have recently finished this really adorable little tabby cat. I literally can't remember the last time I drew a cat. I think it must have been about 4 or 5 years ago, which is crazy because I feel like cats are such a popular animal to draw, and I just never ever draw them. I've done like a little bit of African wildlife and like some big cats and things like that, but domestic cats just I just haven't really drawn that any recently. I don't really get asked to do commissions of cats, but I think it's because I don't really advertise that I do cats. Obviously my main focus has always been dogs and horses. So yeah, anyway, I am working on my usual Fabriano Artistico hot press watercolour paper. It's in the 640 GSM, which is the heaviest weight. It's my absolute all-time favourite paper for drawing fur, just because I think I can get loads of layers and loads of detail, and I absolutely adore the surface. But obviously there are other brands, and they are probably just as good, but my favourite is Fabriano. So I'm using that, and my main two pencil brands I'm using for this masterclass are the Faber Castell Polychromos pencils and the Caran Luminance. Obviously the Polychromos pencils are oil based and the Luminance are wax based, and I'm gonna explain a little bit about the difference. So basically, I really like to use previously, I only really like to use Faber Castell. The Luminance I really like for the colours, but I don't really see the benefit of them because they're really soft and really waxy. When it comes to drawing animals, I just couldn't get my head around, because a lot of people use them like Prismacolor pencils, and ultimately that's obviously I've never used them, but people use them to for portraits and his skin, so super blendable areas. And obviously when you're drawing fur, I just couldn't get my head around the benefit because I couldn't really get them to a sharp point. However, about 6 months ago, I really realised how to use them effectively and really utilise them in my portraits, and now they are literally my favourite pencils. I cannot live without these Luminance pencils. I probably use them more than I do my Polychromos pencils. So I work in a lot of layers, as a lot of colour pencil artists will tell you that they also do as well. So I work in a lot of layers, and on a surface like Fabriano, we've got so much tooth, it's so textured. It's not really textured, but it's got so much, it's almost like a pillowy surface, is that the right term? It's really quite a dense paper. And you really need to try and smooth the teeth of the paper, so really flatten the surface so you're not going to get that much texture. And to use a wax-based pencil like the Luminance, it just works perfectly. And because the pencil kind of grips the paper really well, and you're not pressing that hard. Whereas with an oil-based pencil, you tend to need to press a little bit harder. So effectively what you're doing by using the Luminance pencils as your base layer, you're effectively being able to get a lot more layers in, and you're covering a lot more surface with less pressure, which is ideal because then, as I said, you're not damaging the teeth of the paper as much. So and the other thing is with the Luminance, there are so many beautiful neutral and natural tones. There's so many earthy tones. There's those sepias and really nice greys and things like that. So yeah, that is my favourite brand of pencil right now, but they are more expensive, but I do feel like I definitely get so much use out of them. I think the whole time I was working on this, I didn't, apart from very occasionally, I use them for my base layers the whole time. So using those as base layers, and I like to build up the tones, and I tend to still use a Luminance when I'm building up from my base layer through my mid-tones, and I tend to only use a Polychromos when it comes to adding those final details, because I'm able to get the pencil where it's oil-based to a really sharp point. So when you see me working and adding those final little detail layers, then that is when I am using my Polychromos. And the other thing is when we're working on a subject like this, where we need to go in with the slice tool in order to really sort of scrape off some of the pigment, in order to get those really sort of fine wispy hair strokes, those lighter areas, If you use the Polychromos on this surface, you won't be able to lift off with the slice tool. So effective, and yeah, so you really do need to be using the Luminance in order to get this result. So I actually use them in conjunction with each other, but primarily I am using a lot of the Luminance for this portrait. I did kind of use a few of the Lightfast pencils and some of the Pablos as well, but to be honest, I was not really using them for the properties of the pencil. I was more using them because they had colours that I couldn't really get from anywhere else. When it comes to the property of the pencil, the two I would recommend the most would be the Faber Castell Polychromos and the Caran Luminance. And use them as if you're new to colour pencil or you're trying to figure out, what to spend your money on first. I would 100% recommend those two brands. The Faber Castell are a lot more inexpensive compared to the Luminance, but in working in conjunction with each other, you will get some beautiful results. Both archival as well, which means that it will last a lifetime. So the professional grade materials, all of the materials I use for my portraits are Lightfast, and will last a lifetime, which is always really a good selling point when it comes to putting on your website in order to sort of like gain trust and things like that for your clients. They like to know that people like to know that their money is but if they commission you, then their portrait is going to last like a long time without fading or anything like that. So these are really high quality materials that we're using for these classes and for these portraits. And I think, I'm kind of running out of time now, so I'm going to have to wrap it up. But obviously, I think I've mentioned previously that I am back on Patreon, and I'm also releasing all of these classes as downloadable files on my website, and I'm trying to make them as inexpensive as I possibly can, because honestly, I don't believe tuition should be expensive. I believe art materials are so expensive as they are, so tuition shouldn't be expensive. So I've made these as affordable as I possibly can. I think on Patreon it's like £10 a month, and you get access to my hundreds of hours worth of content, or on my website they are available as one-off downloads. Again, a super inexpensive way, and you can download them and keep them forever on your computer. Obviously work on them in your own time. With all my classes you get the reference photo, you get the full materials list and the line art, and obviously all the hours of tutorial as well, which have full voiceover, and we go super in depth. I explain all the techniques and all the methods you need to know in order to create this sort of artwork. And on my website I have recently created a Patreon library, so some things that are really easy to navigate as well if you were interested in joining my Patreon. And if not, if you're just here to watch this time lapse, and then thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate your support, and if you've got this far, I really hope you like this piece as much as I have loved creating it. Look, it's just so sweet. I absolutely love it. But that's me over and out, so I'm going to wrap up, say thank you once again for watching, and hopefully I will see you very soon. Take care and lots of love. Bye.